She repeated her query until Karoline was fed up. The following event shocked everyone. Room was full. The platform where Karoline Leavitt stood confidently was surrounded by cameras. Even though she was used to crowds, today seemed different. Washington's air. A buzz of expectation permeated the briefing room. She adjusted the mic. Good day, everybody. Let's begin. Journalists anxious for a headline raised their hands across the room to ask their questions first. Karoline pointed to a recognizable reporter from a big network who inquired about the administration's new tax cut program. She responded with the poise of a professional. Education reform follow-up question. Karoline responded immediately. She had stood steady, controlled the message, and handled the press like a pro many times. But then it occurred. Sharper voice pierced across the room. Ms. Leavitt, addressed the true problem. She was the liberal reporter. Karoline recognized her as a combative, controversial speaker. She smirked as she sat in the front, her pen tapping furiously on her notebook. Karoline maintained composure. Go ahead. Reporter wasted no time. Are the administration's measures meant to oppress specific groups? Since data says, Karoline raised a hand. I answered that earlier. All Americans, regardless of background, benefit from government initiatives. I'm eager to discuss today's issue further. Few murmurs rang across the audience, but the reporter continued. She inched closer. You didn't answer the question. Answer explicitly whether. Yes, I answered. Karoline said abruptly yet calmly. Her look at the other journalists indicated she was eager to go on. The room settled briefly, a little respite as if things may get better. But then, I don't see why you're avoiding it, the reporter said, breaking through the air. Simply yes or no. Are these policies oppressing minorities? Room temperature changed. Reporters looked at each other. Some appeared curious, others uneasy. No one wanted a news conference to escalate into a brawl, but it did. Slowly, Karoline breathed, not avoiding anything, staying on topic. I will happily answer any questions on today's talk. If not, I'll leave. Reporter didn't back down. She leaned closer to the mic. So no comment? Everyone felt the moment's weight as the room's energy tightened. It was evident. Not simply a press conference. A show was emerging. The room quieted. None talked, yet the stillness wasn't empty. It loaded. Silence that was poised like an elastic band about to shatter. Karoline positioned herself with both hands on the podium. Your inquiry is answered. I'm leaving. She pointed to another journalist in the rear, but the same voice interrupted them again. Why do you have trouble answering directly? Karoline seemed irritated. Just a momentary tightness around the eyes, but enough to be seen. This wasn't new to her. She understood reporters' duties. Pressing for responsibility was different from personalizing an event. This one was obvious now. A few cameras swept from Karoline to the reporter, capturing every body language change and small movement that may garner a headline. Karoline nose-breathed. I don't waste time. I'll address new questions. Otherwise, I'll give others an opportunity, the reporter grinned. Sure. New query. Why does this government fear transparency? Some hushed gasps. Some reporters typed frantically, anticipating a greater moment. Karoline's measured blink was the only clue the comment hit. She held the podium for a moment before releasing it, breathing gently. Her grin was not diplomatic. This grin was unusual. One who stated, I understand your goal. She replied slowly. Transparency? This administration represents that. Your actions don't promote transparency. About theater. The words lingered. The reporter's grin faded. A journalist in the back cleared his throat. If I could, Karoline. But the same voice interrupted again. You're dismissing legitimate concerns as theater? The American people demand answers. Cameras captured everything. Karoline's small head tilt. The other journalists' seat movements. Many were upset the event was hijacked. This isn't journalism, said a seasoned journalist who had covered politics for decades. Performance art. The reporter didn't care. She knew what she was doing. The longer she continued, the more viral it would become. A confrontation like this? It was social media gold. Karoline saw it. The option existed. Engage and feed the moment or end it. Finally, she groaned and looked at security across the room. She needn't speak. Her look change was enough. Tension returned to the room. All understood what it meant. This was beyond debate. This was about to escalate. Room air felt thicker. Though no one spoke, the tension held everyone in place. Karoline saw how some journalists avoided eye contact. Others tightening their pen grips. They weren't passive. They waited. The reporter, a mid-30s lady with piercing eyes and straight stance, didn't move. She was still leaning forward, pen on paper, sneer on her lips. She wasn't asking questions. Karoline straightened. She was making a point. One more time. I will answer appropriate questions. I won't argue bad faith here. The reporter giggled quietly, shaking her head. Bad faith? Karoline, I'm working. A free press is for that, right? Karoline didn't blink. A free press holds individuals responsible. Your goal is to make this a spectacle. Murmurs filled the room. Some journalists glanced at one another, feeling the change. The debate no longer concerned policy. Now it was different. The reporter tapped her pen on the table. To clarify, Karoline knew what was coming before she said it. Avoiding answering because you can't? Do you prefer not to? Silence. Inhaling sharply, several reporters braced for what came next. Karoline breathed to gauge her reaction. I won't play. This press conference isn't about you. The reporter's grin briefly faltered. She reclined, arms crossed. Right. Because expecting transparency is fun. This time it wasn't a whisper. A few journalists muttered. Others watched Karoline to see how she would react. Karoline has dealt with tough reporters before. But this was unique. This wasn't policy. This was about control. Who might lead the discussion? She moved away from the podium and adjusted the microphone. I suppose we're done. The words shook the room. The reporter raised eyebrows. Excuse me? Karoline remained calm. You've indicated you're not interested in talking. You want a headline. Keep listening to the news conference if you want. I'll stop answering your queries. The reporter laughed quietly, shaking her head. So? Press censorship. Got it. Karoline's jaw tensed. She anticipated it. She recognized the spin as soon as the cameras started rolling. She realized she couldn't win with this person. Looked for security. Soft, silent signal. Suddenly, everything changed. People moved seats. Suddenly, the atmosphere went from tension to conflict. It went beyond debate. Bigger things were coming. Unease rippled across the room. The journalists weren't simply watching. They recorded every second and movement to see how far this would go. Karoline looked at security as camera shutters clicked. The reporter observed. Her grin vanished. You're serious? She questioned, her voice quieter but still cutting across the room. Karoline didn't reply. A uniformed cop at the entrance moved slowly. He needed no words. The message was plain. The reporter has two choices. Reduce or intensify. She chose the latter. She said, shaking her head, "This is unbelievable." Becoming louder for the cameras. So much for press freedom? Karoline held steady. Press freedom doesn't equal press conference takeover. The reporter laughed dryly, glancing around the room to get other journalists to concur. Several shuffled uneasily and wrote notes, but no one spoke. The security guard moved again. Suddenly, the reporter paused. She may resist and be removed. That would go viral. She may also stand up, leave, and change the story. Karoline saw the choice unfold behind the reporter's eyes. The lady carefully took her notebook. She arose, adjusting her purse strap. "This is a shame," she whispered, loud enough for the microphones to pick up. She took one more shot before leaving. Karoline didn't answer. Behind the reporter, the door closed, and it ended. It should have been. No one knew what to do next in the dense hush. Cameras kept rolling. Some journalists hid their eyes while taking notes. Others gazed. Voice from back of room. Karoline, was this choice right? She looked at the speaking journalist. "I consider it vital." Another voice. You think this won't backfire? She anticipated it. She knew the internet would be full with video when she left this room. The headlines were visible to her. Karoline Leavitt fires reporter over harsh questions. Did it matter? She straightened. We're here to talk, not interrupt. I'm willing to address serious queries from others. A pause. Slowly, a hand rose. Press conference continues. The genuine storm just started. Within minutes, the film went viral and Karoline's name was trending before she left the platform. Karoline's phone buzzed as she left the podium. Staff members whispered along the room's edge, tensely looking between their displays and the reporter's exit minutes before. She knew what was occurring without checking her alerts. The footage circulated quickly. One of her aides caught up with her up the corridor to her office with a phone. Trending already. Hashtag press silence is growing. Nasal exhalation by Karoline. Yes, it is. The assistant paused. Major media sources are embracing it. Some headlines accurately reflect events, while others. She scrolled off. Leavitt censors media. Reporter hauled out for speaking truth to authority. Karoline stopped walking. Speaking truth? Her chuckle was mixed with scoffing. Not true, she was acting. The assistant nodded. No big deal. Not worded that way. Karoline saw this coming as she looked at security. Now these events were practically foreseeable. Clip the tension, remove the context, add a dramatic headline, and let the indignation machine do the rest. Despite the frustration, she didn't panic. She knew narratives could change from her political experience. What about our base? Pushing open her office door, she inquired. I-8 followed her in. They back you. Conservative pundits claim you handled it professionally and won. The usual names protect you. Karoline nods. And the White House? They're distancing themselves without criticizing you. However, that final portion was uncertain. Arms crossed, Karoline leaned on her desk. And her? Her aide didn't inquire who she meant. She scrolled again, scanning her screen. Into it, she leans. Already called it a terrifying time for journalistic freedom in a live interview. She looked up. Every major network books her. Yes, she was. Karoline leaned her head back and stared at the ceiling before pushing off the desk. She whispered, wanting this. We handed it to her. The aide bit her lip. What's the deal? Karoline was slow to respond. She walked to the window to watch the street. She had reporters outside waiting for her next move. She knew she could decide. Stay quiet and let the moment pass or get ahead before the story hardens. Her jaw clenched. The fight continued. If anything, it was just beginning. The outside noise increased. Reporters waited on the sidewalk with cameras facing the entrance for a statement. Karoline was still, hands on her desk as her aide scrolled through endless headlines. Finally, the aide said they're split. Some justify it, saying you handled an unprofessional disruption like a press secretary. Other, she hesitated, sighed. They claim it's a democracy attack. Shaking her head, Karoline smiled. The attack on democracy, she repeated. Her aide didn't respond to removing a rule-breaking reporter. The fast-paced world of digital outrage made the truth irrelevant, they knew. A second aide entered with his phone. Just posted her full statement. Karoline breathed deeply. Let's listen. Reading from screen. I was ejected from a press conference today for asking tough questions. This administration claims transparency but silences the press when questioned. Every American who values accountability and free speech should be alarmed. Karoline laughed briefly, but did she mention how she disrupted the event? Assistant shook head. Of course, playing victim. Everything was predictable. Selective editing, carefully framed posts, dramatic suppression claims. Karoline had seen this game before and had a choice. Her first reaction was to call a press briefing, explain what happened, and remind the public that removing a disruptive journalist did not silence the press. But she knew the outcome. Once she engaged, the cycle continued. She returned to the window. A news van arrived and another reporter emerged with a microphone. Coverage kept going. Tapped her fingers on the desk. Our best play? The first assistant hesitated. Before her version goes viral, we could release the unedited footage. Show how many times you warned her before security arrived. The second assistant nodded. This makes it look transparent, not defensive. It was considered by Karoline. It was a smart move. Let the facts speak for themselves. She knew facts aren't enough to win battles. The perception. Her eyes flicked back to her phone where notifications kept rolling in. She could already predict the cable news segments, the outraged panel discussions, the op-eds dissecting her decision, a long breath in, a slow exhale. Then she nodded. Release all footage. The aides quickly drafted a statement and cued the video. Karoline watched them work, her mind already 10 steps ahead. The reporter had wanted a spectacle. But what she didn't realize was that Karoline wasn't just reacting. She was setting the stage for what came next. The full, unedited footage went live within the hour. No flashy edits, no dramatic commentary. Just a simple post with the raw exchange, letting people see exactly what had happened. The title was clear and direct. Watch for yourself. The full exchange between Karoline Leavitt and reporter at today's press conference. Karoline sat back in her chair, watching as the numbers ticked upward. Thousands of views in minutes. Comments flooding in. Some furious, some supportive. Her phone buzzed. A message from a close ally in the media. Smart move. This takes the wind out of their sails. But she knew it wasn't that simple. The spin was already in motion. The reporter herself had gone on multiple networks, retelling the story in a way that painted herself as the victim. Karoline clicked on one of the interviews. There she was, seated in a dimly lit studio, brows furrowed in righteous indignation. I was simply doing my job, she told the anchor. I was asking tough but necessary questions, and instead of addressing them, I was removed. That should worry everyone, regardless of political affiliation, the anchor nodded solemnly. Did you feel threatened? Karoline rolled her eyes. Threatened? The reporter's sigh was almost theatrical. Not physically, no, but professionally? Absolutely. This is an attack on journalism itself. The interview cut to a panel of experts all weighing in on what this really meant. Dangerous precedent. A disturbing moment for free speech. She was just doing what journalists are supposed to do. Karoline breathed hard, locking her phone screen. The facts were out there, but that didn't imply people would accept them. Her attendant looked inside the office. You're going to want to see this. Karoline followed her to the corridor where personnel had gathered around a TV turned to a conservative network. The presenter was playing the whole footage, the one Karoline had published, stopping at critical spots. She interrupts again and over, he muttered, shaking his head. This wasn't journalism, this was grandstanding. The panelists nodded in accord. This was a setup, one of them remarked. She knew what she was doing. Push till she is removed, then act the victim. The presenter turned back to the camera. Here's the truth. Karoline Leavitt didn't shut down the press. She stopped a journalist acting activist. Karoline folded her arms to observe the talk. The division was obvious. Conservatives lauded her for staying firm. Mainstream media portray her as an authoritarian who silences the press. An aide looked at her. This week will be long. Karoline nods. Well, at least the truth is out. But who would believe it? The tale persisted. It dominated headlines, talk programs, and social media for days. Each side twisted the story to suit their objective as political analysts analyzed every moment. Internet memes mocked the reporter and portrayed Karoline as a monster stifling free expression. Despite the hubbub, one thing became evident. The nation separated. Karoline realized universal victory was unlikely. Battles didn't work that way. Seeing the newest panel discussion tape at her workplace, something hit her. Sighing, a recognized experienced journalist leaned forward in his chair. We must be honest, he urged. No truth-seeking journalist here. Someone sought a viral moment and got it. Other panelists shuffled uneasily. It was unusual to hear such honesty. Her inquiry was answered. Disliked. Pushing for controversy, not clarity. After being removed, she raced to the cameras claiming victimization. That's advocacy, not journalism. The host frowned. You mean Karoline was justified? A journalist shrugged. I'm arguing we must define journalism honestly. Our goal is to educate, not incite. Slowly, Karoline breathed. Finally, someone stated it. However, she understood the harm was done. Headlines were written. The clips were altered. People who believed she suppressed free speech wouldn't alter their beliefs. In anticipation of the next political confrontation, her supporters had moved on. Her assistant entered lightly after knocking. Your interview request comes from... No, Karoline replied quickly. The assistant blinks. You have no idea who sent it. Standing up, Karoline responded, I don't care. Not pursuing this. The truth is out. Allow them to use them. The aide paused, then nodded. Understood. Karoline browsed her phone's incessant alerts. Storms pass. It always did. She knew this was more than one news conference. About something grander. Current media operations. Narrative construction. Truth became secondary to clicks and fury. She regarded her assistant. Release one last statement. Wanted to say what? Karoline paused, then grinned. Only 4 words. The assistant waited. Karoline nods. Watch the whole thing. Because ultimately it mattered. The truth. Whether viewers wanted it. Media honesty is fragile. Journalism and activism are blurring in an age when clicks count more than context. Not whether Karoline was right or wrong. It's whether society values truth enough to spot manipulation. You think? Please share in the comments. Subscribe for more stuff like this.